And being able to broker those services will basically overhead that gets in the way of using these neat, new, cool cloud services. And again, also, you have to keep in mind that the services are not just about cloud services. I see cloud as, all right, yet another type of service that's available on the market. But still, managing the new emerging cloud-based services alongside traditionally outsourced services and internally supplied services. You have to put everybody on the same playing field and manage those services in the context of one another and in the context of the policies for your enterprise. So some of the characteristics, I call this service integration, this new role, this new emerging role that IT needs to embrace. And in this service integration role, there are a few characteristics that IT needs to build and have in order to, again, take advantage of the various types of services that are available and converge them into the appropriate business services that bring value to the business. I mentioned the service catalog. That self-sourcing piece is very important because you've got to be able to put the face out there to the business that shows what's available, at what cost, at what SLA, levels of quality, what they're really getting for the dollar that they're spending. So that level of transparency has to be there with the services that you offer to the business. You've got to have some sourcing strategy, and you've got to have some governance in place. The sourcing strategy should start with a business strategy that evolves to an IT strategy, and then understanding your sourcing strategy in the context of policies like your data management policies or information lifecycle management type of policies for data retention, data safe harbor. The geographic location sometimes is important to your business, compliance needs, other security policies or access control policies that may be in place, background checks and things like that that are necessary maybe for anybody that has access to certain data or applications. So you have to basically converge and more or less federate the information from all the places across your IT silos that manage policies and make sure that you put together a sourcing strategy that either debunks some of the policies that you've had around forever that really don't make sense anymore so that you can take advantage of some low-cost services, or embrace and support those policies and manage which applications and which data can be distributed to which services. Multi-supplier management. This is somewhat of an emerging area. But when you think about your processes across IT, if you have different services that you're procuring and buying, but you have incidents managed differently in one than another, you have asset information different in one than another, you start to fragment your view as far as your IT resources. You start to fragment your ability to bring together the views so that you do understand that you're still operating in the context and in support of the security policies for your business. So multi-supplier management and having the team and the skill sets there to perform that are very important. And then a service portfolio aligned with the business strategy. Service portfolio management, I think, is one of the next new big things. Over the past, 10 years, I guess it's felt like, the CMDB and our focus on IDLE v2 and configuration management was really the big silver bullet that we all rushed towards to help us understand how to manage services within our enterprise. I think portfolio management now with IDLE v3 and some of the evolution from application portfolio management to service portfolio management is a next necessary step, again, in order to understand what services you're sourcing from where and put the proper governance in place across those various investments that you're making. So let's talk about the last reaction from this cloud phenomenon, and that is the service-centric IT organization. As I mentioned in history, we tend to come from a world, an IT world, that was built on our understanding of technologies. We built silos within IT that were typically oriented around technologies like network, like application development, like servers, storage, et cetera. And we sometimes brought those together in the context of systems and manage them in the context of systems. The evolution and move towards service centricity is an important next step. And again, this plethora of services available on the market continues that pressure on enterprise IT to adopt and embrace a service-centric philosophy to managing IT. So let's look at some of the implications of those silos that I talked about. You get that great idea. And it is wonderful. The business asked for it. I promise that you did. And as we go across all the silos, and each independent group makes their decisions, whether it's decisions about design, architecture, policy, etc., what do you get at the end of the day? Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe not such a happy business customer at the end of the day. So again, driving this move from the silos of IT and weaving those together better in the context of the services that you are developing or the services that you are procuring, either one, you have to have that skill set in place. So what we see is a change in some of the behaviors of IT and some of the skill sets that are needed. So some of the things I have here, previously it was really around how do I provision and manage assets? How do I provision a server? How do I buy a server? How do I provision it? How do I manage it as an asset in its asset life cycle? Now it's that service, being that service broker for the enterprise. So being very aware of the services that are available both externally and internally and putting those together with an appropriate veneer to the business. I also think there's an evolution from a real focus on I say plan there, I should change that to design because you always need to do planning, but design, build, run, and the technologies needed to support design, build, run to an evolution of and need for how do I source, how do I integrate, and how do I manage services. So that too, there's kind of a shift and a balance that will be occurring here where organizations that had kind of felt a need to invent or build their own ground-up applications or systems internally. Now, maybe there's a look at buy versus build a little more effectively. So how do I source, integrate, and manage is a very important skill. The siloed tribal organization philosophy that we just saw the little cartoon around to more of a supply chain-oriented IT philosophy. So thinking about again, the value chain that you build in the context of services within the organization and how to manage against that. Project-driven or build-to-order. Let me take your requirements for your app and build your app to more of a service catalog-driven with some configs that you put inside that catalog to allow your business consumer to make some pre-arranged or pre-configured optimizations. Selections. You're measured on cost in today's world. We want to be measured on value in tomorrow's world. And some of the roles, I've talked about this a little bit as we've gone along, but what we see is the need for skill sets in sourcing management. So the multi-supplier management need that I talked about, financial management, an emerging and more cognizant awareness of financial management is now happening in IT. That ability to compare apples to apples, service to service, whether it's baselining against internal services, external services, et cetera, but that ability to do true comparative analysis across services so that you effectively do know qualities of service, SLAs, cost models, and pricing structures. The business relationship management. Many of us have taken that step already with in our application development teams. Now it's just a shift a little more strongly towards a demand management in the context of a service that we're either developing internally or procuring externally. And the benefit, making sure that what we actually committed, we're actually realizing.